Oh, wow. Yeah, we extended it out. Nice, man.
Hey!
Yeah, I'm Bob, and I'm here to oppose the lockdown.
I'm Father Anthony Hannon. I'm a priest with the Archdiocese of Ottawa, Cornwall. I'm a Catholic priest. And I love freedom and the truth and our country. And I thought it was important that, people know that there are priests who can see the truth as well and are on their side. Because the official church seems to be lock and step with the popular narrative.
I'm out here for a Freedom Rally.
What did you think of the rally last week?
I wasn't here, I missed it, unfortunately. I saw videos though, and it was pretty big, and I was really happy to see that. But it needs to be bigger though, if you ask my opinion. It needs to be much bigger. More people need to be, waking up, start speaking out against this. It's over a year and a half now. Come on. Small businesses are hurting, people are hurting. Like you mentioned, the seniors, they're hurting. It's crazy.
I'd like to see an end to the lockdowns. It's very restrictive. Our freedoms we've lost a lot of freedoms. There's a lot of misinformation. And I'd like to see an end to it, all the panic.
Freedom is not a three-step plan! Out to support the cause, which is to march for freedom.
Do you think the lockdown has infringed upon any of our charter rights?
I certainly do, yes. The big one for me is freedom of religion. I am a believer, which means I walk in faith with God, and I do not appreciate people telling me that I have to lock myself in my home or suffocate myself or refrain from doing sports with my children in clubs or any of the, going to school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Do you think the lockdown has infringed upon any of our charter rights?
Well, of course. Not charter rights, fundamental freedom rights, right?
Which ones do you think?
Well, our freedom, everything, freedom of speech, freedom to work. Come on, our freedom to love. Honestly, because love and freedom are responsibilities. So they've when they lock down nursing homes, they've taken away our possibility to exercise our responsibilities and love our elderly relatives or friends. This is really crimes against humanity, and a great injustice to the elderly, to the young, to the children. It's really, really bad.
So what's your name and what brings you out here today?
My name is Rachel, and this is Sean, and we are here for the Freedom Rally because we feel like Canada is in trouble. Bill C-10 is a monstrosity, and we are very concerned for the future, and we really don't want that bill to pass, but there's so much other problems at hand as well. We need to take the masks off, and we need to go back to life as normal. It's unconstitutional to mask us up. The deaths are low, and when they change things and they make it look different than what it truly is, it's just sad.
And all the other problems that the lockdowns have caused.
Yeah, there are so many other deaths and mental health problems that are spiraling out of control, and it just doesn't outweigh what they say is happening.
The mental health problems we're causing our youth.
Yeah.
Right now,
and I think it also just our youth. Like, why can't we buy them clothes? Why can't we buy them shoes?
They grow fast.
And underwear. Why should I have to order it online and it costs so much more money, when right now, people aren't working?
And do you think the lockdown has infringed upon any of our charter rights?
Absolutely. My goodness, how many? Freedom of expression, freedom of peaceful assembly, freedom of movement. It's outrageous. And I believe we have an inherent right, a God-given right, to not cover our faces. It was very early on, because even in March of last year, March of 2020, if you look at the H1N1 event, there were lots of parallels, and never have we had these draconian, authoritarian, tyrannical rules imposed. So I didn't see any need for it then. And as I saw country after country locked down, I saw it was inevitable that Canada would come on board, but I couldn't see the logic in it. Why was this happening? So all I had was questions at that time. I became more informed over last summer, and now there's information coming out almost every day on how absurd the situation is, that there's no medical underpinning to this. The empirical data do not justify it.
And what's your final thoughts on today's rally?
Today's rally is a lot more modest than the one last week. The one last week was amazing. It showed that people in Ottawa are aware and are fed up. Today it's a smaller group, but we're it's still important to show up and to keep the pressure on, because otherwise, if we don't, I think nobody will. If we rely on mainstream media to help us at this point, I don't think we're ever gonna get out of that mess, because mainstream media is funded mostly by government, so they're playing for the same team. So they're not there for us. They're there for profit and for clicks and. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I was deemed essential in the business that I'm working in, so I've been fortunate, but a lot of people I know haven't been, especially the hospitality industry, restaurants, things like that. And so a lot of these people, if not in the near future, they're going to suffer a lot of problems, a lot of financial setbacks and so on.
How do you think Canada has treated its senior population over the last year of the lockdown?
I think it's abysmal. We know of somebody whose mother lives in a retirement home in Windsor, so she had to travel from Toronto or London, I think, to Windsor to visit, and could only see her mother through plate glass. And they didn't even set up a speaker so that they could speak to each other, a speaker and mic, which would have been, $40? A little bit of heart, guys. So all they could do was see her. They couldn't speak to her, and they certainly couldn't touch her. There was no justification for this. All they need in old age homes is much better ventilation systems, open the windows, give people vitamin D. To not have the touch of human kindness it's a much greater sin than exposing them to the possibility of a viral infection that can easily be treated. And again, a scandal that the available treatments aren't being used. So it's just layer upon layer of wrong things medically.
Christians are supposed to follow the rule of the land unless it contradicts with the Bible. Mm-hmm. Do you think the lockdowns contradict with the Bible?
Of course. Yeah, definitely. Breaks a number of the 10 Commandments.
So there should be heaps more Christians out here.
Well, people are in denial, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not God, the Lord is the judge. I don't know what's going on with them. If it was easy to just explain to them rationally. I come from a background of addictions and codependency, And I learned a long time ago, 35 years ago, that you can't reason out denial. And I don't try to argue reality with delusional people. So even though someone might have faith, it doesn't stop them from having blind spots, But anyway, it breaks the commandment against lying because there is no plague. It breaks the commandment against killing because wearing a mask does harm to yourself. It breaks the commandment against the first commandment, superstitions, because wearing a mask to stop a coronavirus is about as effective as having a rabbit's foot. So, yeah, people need to repent. Christians ought to repent and live in the truth. And following orders is not an excuse, because even with legitimate authority, honor your mother and your father and all legitimate authority. And I have a solemn promise of obedience. But no legitimate authority can order someone to do an immoral thing. We have a responsibility and a duty to disobey immoral orders. And that's the Christian duty above just following orders. That didn't work with soldiers who committed crimes in wars, who said they were just following orders. And I don't think it's going to work when we meet Jesus for our particular judgment.
Everyone, okay. When you see it, you'll laugh.
Your final thoughts on the rally today?
This is a great rally. Last week there was a lot of people. It had to do with worldwide freedom or worldwide against the lockdowns, and that was a fantastic turnout. I think it's a great idea, and they have a lot of things here. When I talk to people, it's very rational. So lots to learn from them.
Canada has treated its senior population over the last year of lockdown?
I think it's been appalling. I think these are the people that need the most love and support, and their end of life, as they come towards their final years, should be really celebrated. And to keep them from their family and their loved ones and in a state of fear is absolutely appalling. And I think that there will definitely be, I think people will be paying the price for this in good time.
How do you think children have fared through this lockdown?
Again, appalling. Absolutely. It's been so horrendous. It's their birthright to socialize. It's their birthright to play. We know that children learn through play and through being with other children, and to keep them locked up at home, pushed onto screens for, virtual learning for 8 hours a day, and basically told that they're not really allowed to do anything else but sit in their house. And my understanding is they really want them attached to the screen as much as possible, which we know has damaging effects, and it's something that's going to impact the next generation for sure. It's criminal. It's spring now. Every child is dying to play soccer with their sports teams and football and get everything going. Instead, we're turning them into mini sloths who sit and watch Netflix and type away on their computer all day. So much like the senior population, it's absolutely disgusting.
And you mentioned that the lockdowns were unconstitutional. What do you feel is unconstitutional about the lockdowns?
Well, under the guise, I remember in the beginning feeling very concerned, and worried that
Closing small businesses.
That's the problem.
That's like that. There's no more free enterprise within Canada. If you're not big enough to be essential, then you're done. You're like, it's been a year. How many businesses can survive this?
Small ones.
That's a lot of employment that's gone.
Yeah, and why are
how
they
does it recover?
making them close their doors?
It just makes the people at the top more money, and
Walmart
the
didn't
little
close
people
their doors.
just
Costco didn't
become
close their doors.
more little people. There's nobody growing. There's the small working class isn't growing to get beyond that. There's actually people going and entering the lower class from all this.
When did you start to find some holes in the lockdown narrative or the COVID narrative?
Well, pretty much when the masks came along, it was like, wait a minute, all day? That's not something that, and because...
I used to work in a profession that required me to wear masks and be trained in how to use them and when to use them, and atmospheres and environmental changes and stuff that you have to know when you're working with masks. And then this came out and I went, you can't wear a mask all the time, it's not safe, right? And that's in Occupational Health and Safety Code, and it's been that way. The science on that was done 30, 40 years ago, right? And doctors saying that to wear masks, the only reason doctors wear masks is in an isolated environment where
they could get spittle into a human body as they're working on
it's not to stop viral transmission, or
because,
like you
billion can sit on
an
the end of a
N95
pin.
mask is good for 16 microns, right? And the coronavirus is way smaller than that. So it's pointless.
That's when we kind of went, that's weird, but we followed along and we did what we needed to do. But just as it kept going, it was like, this can open, but that will close, and it just kind of spiraled out of control from there. And then you're looking around at people going, wait, you don't see this? Like, you don't see how this is so backwards? And
we want to see smiles out here again!
And what are your final thoughts on the rally today?
My final thoughts on the rally, well, it's a lot smaller so far from from last week, which was a worldwide freedom march. But what I love about this is it's just all the like-minded people coming together, and in this crowd we're creating alternatives, we're creating new solutions, and we're finding that, we're actually not alone. There's enough of us to make a change here and to create something other than what the government has in store for us.
Well, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey there. How are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Good.
Where is he?
Oh, there we are. I don't know.
Or she was associated with another hermit.
You are now watching People's Opinions on Popular Topics.